Consider for just a moment, what is one way your life could better reflect a profound message to the people around you this week? We're going to spend some time today exploring how our everyday lives, every choice, every interaction can actually become this extraordinary form of communication. Welcome. Today, we're unpacking a really deep idea, actually. It comes from some ancient wisdom, specifically a letter in 2 Corinthians chapter 3. And the idea is that, that you might be the only letter some people ever really encounter.
That's exactly right. And that passage talks about people themselves being a letter from Christ, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God. It's quite a powerful metaphor, isn't it?
It really is.
Suggesting our lives are, seen, read by everyone around us, a kind of living communication. What's so interesting is how it flips our usual thinking about communication. It's not just what you say.
Right.
It's fundamentally about who you are, how you live out certain principles.
Okay, so clearly not about writing actual physical letters then. But what does that really mean for our lives to be this message that's known and read by everyone? That sounds like we're always on.
In a way, yeah. The metaphor suggests this constant, unspoken thing. People watch you. They see how you react day to day, your interactions, the choices you make.
Yeah.
And from that, they form conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
Conclusions about maybe deeper truths or values you represent. And it's not presented as just trying harder on your own. The text says it's about your everyday conduct being empowered, directed by something more the Spirit of the living God, as it says.
Okay.
So the focus really shifts, from just words to the authentic person living it out. Your actions become this visible proof of what's inside. The ancient writers really seem to think this was a key way deep truths get communicated.
That makes me think of that saying. You hear it sometimes. You might be the only Bible someone ever reads. It feels like, a lot of responsibility, doesn't it?
It does.
If my life is a message, what message is it sending? Maybe when I'm not even thinking about it.
That's a crucial question, yeah. It's about representation, really. If we're trying to align ourselves with, say, a greater love or truth, then every choice, every little interaction, it has this potential, doesn't it?
Right.
To either draw people towards that truth or maybe unintentionally push them away. Your life, everything, how you handle conflict, how you treat people who maybe can't do anything for you, how you respond under pressure, your integrity when it's tough, serving without needing applause. All of it sends a message.
Wow.
You can't really switch it off. It's just radiating. Your work ethic, patience in cues, politeness. These small things, they add up. They communicate your inner values, sometimes way louder than any speech you could give.
Okay.
Authenticity seems to be the key thing highlighted. A consistent life tells a better story than, fancy words without follow-through.
So here's where it gets really interesting for me, and probably for a lot of people listening. This whole idea suggests you don't need a big stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a platform. It's not about being famous. It's about these principles showing up in the ordinary, sometimes boring parts of life. Can you give us some examples, maybe some real-life situations where this idea played out in just everyday places?
Absolutely. And the beauty of it is how practical it is, how it shows up everywhere. Think about the story of a rideshare driver in New York City. This was back in 2024. It got some attention. This driver, they became known not for, loud music or ignoring people, which sometimes happens, but for something really simple. They kept a little basket in the back seat full of encouraging notes, handwritten ones.
Oh, wow.
And one writer shared this story. They were having a terrible day, feeling invisible, just overwhelmed, crying on the way to work. And finding one of those notes, it stopped them. It was a reminder that someone, somewhere saw them, cared.
A mobile ministry, I think you called it before. A car becoming this place of quiet encouragement.
That's amazing.
Right.
What was it about that, do you think, that simple gesture that made such an impact?
Well, I think it was the unexpected nature of it.
It wasn't a transaction, right? It wasn't required. It felt like an overflow of just kindness.
Okay.
And when kindness is unexpected like that and consistent, it can be really disarming. It connects deeply, emotionally. It kind of goes beyond just being polite, It communicated something bigger. And this driver's faithfulness, day in, day out, just wanting to lift people up, it turned that ordinary car into this channel for hope. Shows how everyday spaces can become pretty extraordinary.
That's a really powerful example, reaching people exactly where they are. But what about places where it feels even harder, like maybe a busy, stressful job? You mentioned a story about a teenager, too.
Yes, another great example. Also from 2024, this one in Ohio, a teenager working in fast food. And that environment, it's often about speed, efficiency, Maybe not so much personal connection.
Right, high pressure.
Exactly. But this young person, they consistently got noticed. Compliments for their patience, their smile, just their calm way of being, even during rushes. And eventually people ask, a regular customer, a coworker, why are you always so positive?
Right.
And her answer was simple. She just said, I try to treat people like Jesus would.
Wow, just like that. And what happened then? What was the effect of that quiet commitment?
Well, it started conversations. Real conversations about deeper things, spiritual questions, with coworkers, even customers.
Mhm.
It wasn't that she was preaching or pushing anything. It was her character, how she lived it out, that made people curious.
Okay.
So if you connect these two stories, the driver, the fast food worker, what they both show is, well, it's the simple, consistent acts, grace, kindness, driven by something inside them. And that often has more impact than just talking about it. They show how living out qualities that reflect maybe a higher calling. It naturally leads to curiosity, to conversations about faith and meaning just by being who they were in those everyday moments. The little actions build up, like writing that letter people can read.
Okay, so pulling this all together then, if our lives are constantly sort of preaching a message, intended or not, how do we make sure it's the right message? How do we ensure it clearly reflects, love, truth, grace? What's the key condition for that?
Yeah, and this brings us to something really central that comes up again and again, this idea of a surrendered heart. The main takeaway, I think, from these examples and the whole concept is you don't need the stage. You don't need the platform. What you need is what these texts call a surrendered heart that lives like Christ.
Okay.
And that's not about being passive or just giving up. It's more like an active choice, a deliberate yielding of your own ego, maybe your first impulses, your personal desires sometimes. It's choosing to let a higher, maybe more selfless principle guide how you react, how you decide things.
That sounds, well, that sounds really hard.
Yeah.
Especially today in a world that's often about me first. Can you say a bit more about what that surrendered heart really means? Is it about losing yourself or becoming something else?
That's a good question. It's presented less as losing yourself and more as aligning yourself.
Aligning. Okay.
Yeah, it signifies this deep willingness to step back from just self-serving motives and allow a guiding spirit, as the text put it, to shape your actions. It's framed as this active choice to align your will with compassion, with empathy. And through that yielding, that alignment, things like patience, real kindness, selfless service, integrity, they start to flow more naturally. It becomes less about trying really hard and more like an overflow.
I see.
This process, it seems, fundamentally changes how you live, how you interact. And that makes your life this authentic, readable letter for others. It's about letting your character be shaped from the inside out so the outside truly reflects the inside. And it's ongoing, right? A daily choice, maybe moment by moment sometimes, to yield to something greater than just yourself, allowing that purpose to light up your path, and maybe light the way for others too.
As we finish up our time together, let's come back to where we started, that question. Let it sit with you for a moment, maybe with this deeper understanding we've explored. What is one tangible way your life can better reflect a profound and impactful message to the people around you this week? Just take a moment. Consider how your daily actions, your responses, even just your presence, how they can speak of something truly beautiful, something enduring, maybe without you needing to say a single word.